On this webcast, you're going to discover what you need to know to get started with a podcast. The tools, the equipment, the software, the format, everything. We're going to tell you everything. Let's go. Hey everybody, this is Antoine Dupont with Katapult.Marketing, and this is webcast number 23. And today we have a special guest from Indianapolis, Michael Reynolds. Hi Michael, how are you?
Hey Antoine, all the way from Indianapolis. Boy, are my arms tired.
Yeah, where it's not windy, right? We just went through Hurricane Irma and
a little gray.
Right. And we didn't have to reschedule with you. We were scheduled to be doing on this, but I had to reschedule a couple of webcasts. In any
I'm glad
case,
you guys are safe.
Yeah, well, thank you. A lot of broken branches, but we're doing good. So, Michael, I know everybody knows who you are in Indianapolis, but in South Florida and the rest of the United States, and maybe a couple of people that don't know who you are. So I want you
maybe a couple.
Just a couple. Introduce yourself, your name, your company, and what you're passionate about.
Sure. Again, my name is Michael Reynolds. I'm the CEO of SpinWeb. We're a digital agency, kind of like yours, Antoine. So we've been in business 21 years, and we do a lot of work in really conservative, security-conscious industries like financial services, healthcare, government, etc. And we are really I specifically am really into podcasting right now, and I think that's what we're going to talk about today, which is very cool. So podcasting is kind of my favorite content marketing tool right now.
Wow.
So we'll get into that. And if you want any fun facts, I can share, but we can jump right in if you want to. So it's up to you.
Well, no,
I like sushi.
I think it's really you like sushi. Okay, cool. Yeah, actually, every time we meet and we've met all over the United States, we have sushi together. So you're my sushi buddy. There you go. So I'd love to hear some fun facts. So yeah, we're going to talk about podcasts today, and I know that. It's a topic that I hear often. Clients ask me, should I podcast? What is podcast? How do you do it? Is it worth my while and whatnot? So I think you're going to help us getting a lot of clarity around the podcast. So I'd love to hear your fun facts around podcast that could set the mood for this webcast.
Sure. Well, the sushi fun fact is the one I always lead with. I also play the cello. I have a degree in cello performance. So I still kind of play semi-professionally on the side. So that's something a lot of people may not know about me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm married and have a 2-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Eli. Mm-hmm. And all I do on Instagram is post pictures of Eli. That's like I've turned my Instagram feed over to nothing but pictures of Eli because he's just so funny. So you probably noticed on Facebook, I share him there too. So that's my family. I lived in Indianapolis since 2004. So like I said, I've been running SpinWeb for 21 years, and we got a great team here, and that's the nutshell version.
Okay, cool, super cool. So thank you, Michael. So at least we get a sense of you and all that. So that's really cool. So we want to talk about podcasting today, and specifically, what I like to do is I'd like to have a format where we're going to give you. Provide as much value for you, but giving you some tips, especially for people that are, starting it out or want to figure out what podcasting is and how it works and what you need to have and all this thing. And I asked Michael to give me the 3 things that you need to know about podcasting or that's going to help you elevate, your game and how you get started. The first point, which I really like, is don't overthink it. So what do you mean by that, Michael? Don't overthink podcasting.
Well, I've noticed that in marketing in general, it's really easy to overthink everything. But with podcasting, It seems to be a really chronic problem. So without fail, every single time we help a client launch a podcast, they obsess over every little detail as if they were appearing on Good Morning America. And it's very tempting to want to make it just the most polished, professional, radio show, high quality thing you can possibly do.
Uh-huh.
And if that's the attitude you go into, you're never going to launch the first episode. It's just not going to happen. So what's cool about podcasting is it's very accessible to everybody, which is good and bad because you have a lot of bad podcasts out there that kind of fizzle out and go nowhere, which, that happens when something's so accessible.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, the fact that it's so accessible means that there is no real barrier stopping you from launching a great podcast and making it happen. So everyone's first couple episodes suck. They're terrible. I shouldn't say they're terrible, but they're not really the best. Like ours were terrible. The first couple episodes we launched, I think they were pretty terrible. But as you get going and get better and better,
Right.
it starts to get in a groove. You get better and better. You get comfortable, and suddenly you're basically a radio show host before you know it. So we're on episode, as you can see here, episode 122 is our latest one. So we've been doing this a long time, more than 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And at first it was kind of awkward. We were kind of like, okay, let's get going here. And then like by episode 4, 5, or 6, we were like, hey, this is fun. We're having a blast.
Right.
And if we had obsessed over perfection the first few episodes, we would never have launched, and we would have never been episode 122.
You know, I said that to people, and actually it applies to a lot of things. It applies to blogging, it applies to video marketing, it applies to podcasts. Here's the thing is allow yourself to suck at it for a while. And people are not willing to suck at it. And it's the same thing. I look at my first videos I've done and I'm like, oh God, I cannot believe I actually did it. But what it did is it helped me grow, my channel and getting more videos and then doing it, and you actually see some stuff. And I was considering taking it down, like removing it from my channel. And actually I don't want to, because I think it's a great reminder of where you start with a crappy camera, with a crappy sound, with a, poorly rehearsed and whatnot, but you just went for it. And I wouldn't advise people to just really do an awful job, but don't try to do it perfect. Just go for it, and like I said, it's a great tip, Michael. Just I think and that's what I have with my webcast is just go for the first 100. I think you'd give yourself just do 25 podcasts. And then kind of like sit back and then look where you've been. So that's really cool. So don't overthink it. Just go for it. Allow yourself to suck. But those are my words, not his words. He doesn't speak French.
Oh, I agree.
Number 2, you said choose the format. So that's actually interesting, because I just thought that podcast was a format. So what do you mean by choose the format?
Sure. By format, I want to come back up just a hair and talk about first, this kind of goes along with the theme of your podcast and kind of the why behind it. So, for example, we have a podcast called Spin Radio. As you can see, it's on screen there. And we're playing out the name SpinWeb. The company name is SpinWeb. So for some reason, my team likes to put spin in front of everything we do. So when we hire interns, they're called spinterns. And so when we were doing a podcast, someone shouted out, Spin Radio! It was just so obvious to everybody. So we call it Spin Radio. It's very corny, but it stuck. So it's Spin Radio. So
it works for me.
Our podcast, the purpose of our podcast is simply thought leadership. It's to share marketing and tech information to our audience, which is clients and prospects. And we have actually gotten leads from it. I mean, our clients do listen, our prospects listen. So that is our purpose. It's to teach, and it's an inbound or content marketing tool for that purpose. So that's generally the ideal purpose for most business podcasts. So if you're a B2B company or even B2C, ideally most organizations are going to be well served by creating a podcast that teaches a topic, just like their blog does, just like their ebooks do, just like their webinars do. So that's kind of the idea behind it. So whatever theme you pick, that's going to kind of guide your format. And there's multiple different ways you can approach a podcast format. So a lot of people will do the interview style, kind of like you and I are doing, Antoine. You're interviewing me, makes great content. So that's very, very common, and it can work very well. It can also go very poorly. Right. If the interviews are kind of bland and kind of just like robotic, and it's like, oh, I have 5 questions for you, and can you answer my questions? And that's really boring.
Right.
But if it's dynamic, you and I are a blast, and we're hilarious, so obviously it's entertaining.
We're
so,
absolutely.
If it's
extremely
dynamic and fun,
and extremely good looking too. I mean,
extremely good looking. Yes.
And don't forget that.
Then it's going to be a great format, and you're going to have a great conversation. It's going to work well. Some other formats that can work well are the radio show style format. That's actually what we do at Spin Radio. My VP of Sales and Marketing, Allison, she and I are the co-hosts, and we both come to every episode, every show with some topics lined up we're going to talk about, and we just kind of run through and have conversations about those topics as if we were just co-hosts on a radio show. And that's a really fun format, and it also relieves you of the burden of always booking guests because it's always internal. So that works really well too. You can do a solo format where you're basically kind of a monologue. You can just kind of teach a topic, every 20 minutes or so every week about something. And if that works well for you, if you're good at like solo narrative, that can work well. You can do kind of group radio show formats. You can do group format plus interview subject coming in like almost political show panel type shows. You can do that. So kind of be thinking about what format works best for you. All those are very relevant and very viable, but it should be intentional. It shouldn't just be kind of default, podcasts are interviews, so I'm going to interview, or podcasts are always this. I mean, it's whatever you want it to be. So if your company culture is set up where you've got like 2 or 3 great co-hosts that can have really good chemistry, go with that and see how it works.
Yeah,
if you feel like you're the only one in your company that can kind of spearhead it and you want to look outside for a co-host or a guest, then go that direction.
Right. I actually saw a podcast yesterday, and I'm not going to say who it was, but it was like 2 people and they're talking together, and I was like, it didn't work for me. So there's also all kinds of flavors, and I'm sure some people may like that, but it was way too casual for me. Just them rattling off stuff, and what's also interesting is your audience, so people and what they're going to react. But I think what's important with this is that didn't work for me, but that was their style. He didn't look like they were putting on a show for me. Their style didn't work for me. It's just a question of taste. It's like chocolate vanilla. Not everybody likes chocolate vanilla. I didn't like that style. And, guess what? There's 100 other podcasts out there. So I think what's important also in what you're doing is you're being yourself. It's you and Allison, and you're doing your thing. And when I'm going to land on that, I'm either going to connect with you and say, well, I like these 2 guys. They look, friendly and they're providing value. Or I may just think I don't like it. It's not, goofy enough or serious enough or in depth. One of the things you didn't say is about selling stuff through your podcast. Do you sell anything? Do you make any kind of offers on your podcast?
Hardly ever. Actually, I actually run 2 different podcasts through SpinWeb. One is through SpinWeb called Spin Radio, and the other is through our brand focused on banks and credit unions called Katapult.Marketing. That's the Katapult.Marketing podcast. So on both of them, we will at the end say, hey, if you need any help with digital marketing or your website, look us up at spinweb.net or capitalpointmarketing.com. That's all we do, really. We have promoted an event or 2. If we have an event coming up, we might promote that, but that's pretty minimal. It's very, very minimal. That's the quickest way to turn off your audience, is to start like selling stuff and getting pushy. Right. People aren't going to stand for that.
Yeah, that's what I wanted you to say. Also, actually, it's a don't sell.
Yeah. And on the format, one more note on format. After you kind of decide the format of how the show is going to be structured, then you want to kind of also map out the flow of the show. So for Spin Radio, we used to have a more kind of, I guess, a bigger format where we would have like weekly roundup of news articles, and then one big topic we would teach, and then like community announcements, and then weekly inspiration, like whole different segments. And it was like 45 minutes to an hour long, and it worked pretty well. But we have since shortened that to about 30 minutes, and now we do just a whole string of weekly roundup style stuff, and then we add commentary and teaching on top of it. And so that has worked really well for us because it kept it shorter, but still really relevant, because we got feedback that most people like the weekly roundup stuff at the beginning the best. So we just kind of cut the rest out. So you might think of your format. Do you do like one big topic every time? Do you do like a whole string of like updates every week? What do you do? That's kind of the format you want to figure out.
Yeah, and I think that what's very important, what Michael said here, is that you're going to discover your format as you're doing it. I kind of fell into this webcast format, what I'm doing with you right now, out of someone that was actually asking a question on Facebook, and I said, well, why don't I give you the answer, and instead of just you and me, why don't we record it, and then we can share that with other people, which I know have that question. But the format is also evolving, and unless you remember point number 1, which is don't overthink it, just go for it, you're going to find things that you are at ease with and that work, or people are responding, and just stuff that doesn't work, and you basically stop doing that. So that was a great important. I mean, you said don't sell. Yeah, absolutely do not sell. There's nothing This is not a commercial. If either Michael or I were starting to sell some stuff, you guys would be turning off this webcast in a heartbeat. It's just not interesting. You're interested in value and what matters to you, which is, how do I start my podcast? All right, so that was good. So choose the format. Get a sense of how you want to do it, but don't overthink it. Just try something, and then I think you'll find your sweet spot over time. Once you've done 25, 30 of them, you'll say, you know what, that works out well. Well, that was cool. Mm-hmm. So that was point number 2, choose your format. Number 3 is the last one. And I think that's really important because I don't think that people overthink it, but I think are maybe overwhelmed would be the proper thing, is the equipment and software. So what do you need, like in terms of equipment and software, and how complicated it is for someone out there, a law firm, a medical, a dentist, a doctor, or a small business owner to do a podcast? What do they need to get started?
Sure, it ranges from free to thousands of dollars. And most people are going to end up on the closer to the free end of the spectrum, I think, which is great.
Right.
So I'll kind of start from the other end. So we spent probably $2,000 so far on our little studio here at SpinWeb. That's because I just really wanted to go all in, mm-hmm. and I knew it was a medium that really made sense. And actually at the end, I want to talk about some stats. But before we get to that, so I really wanted to invest. We have great microphones that sound amazing. We have a condenser. We have a mixer. Mm-hmm. We have a preamp. We have microphone stands. We have a whole iMac running the whole thing. Like, it's padding on the walls, like soundproofing. So it's really nice.
Wow.
We have a nice little studio. I mean, it's not like a radio studio, but it's pretty professional for a marketing agency. So it sounds amazing. We just wanted to do that because we wanted to. You don't have to do that. I don't recommend it, honestly. Mm-hmm. So if you are a small business, like you said, a physician, a lawyer, a law firm, or small business, don't do that. Right. Basically, first of all, the question is, who is going to be involved in the podcast and where are they located? Mm-hmm. If everyone is located in your office who's ever going to be doing it, basically buy yourself a nice $100 blue Yeti mic, and set it on the counter and get in front of it, exactly just like that. That mic is very, very good. So it's like $150 maybe on Amazon. Mm-hmm. Sit on the table, find a nice quiet room, mm-hmm. and get your guests around the mic and plug it into your computer. You can use, I use Spreaker to host and record, and that'll be very inexpensive, and you can get really good quality as long as you lean in. You have to be about a hand width away from the mic. So if the mic is this water bottle, I want to be about this far away for the optimum sound, and that should do it for you. And that's all you really need. Mm-hmm. As far as the software, I use Spreaker, Spreaker. So it's like speaker, but with an R, Spreaker. Mm-hmm. And Spreaker will let you record directly into the software, and also it will host the podcast for you. Mm-hmm. And there is a free version.
You can see it right here.
Buy for a while.
I'm putting the products on the left, so you can see Spreaker. So there's a whole bunch of them out there. We actually looked into it. There is some free. There is some pay plans and whatnot. So you use Spreaker. Why do you use Spreaker?
I love Spreaker because first they have a free plan. We have the paid version, but they have a free plan, so it's a good start for everybody, and it looks really good. If you want to embed if you go back to the SpinWeb, the Spin Radio landing page, I'll show you what the embed looks like. Mm-hmm. If you scroll down a bit, mm-hmm. As you can see, the embed code looks really nice. It gives you a nice player.
Oh, okay,
it's branded there, just kind of blends right in. So it's got a lot of customizability for the player as well. And if you pay for the paid versions, they give you really nice statistics and metrics. You can see a lot of data about where people are listening from, what type of device they're using, mm-hmm. Days they're listening, all kinds of stuff. So I like the stats on Spreaker quite a bit. And they also let you publish an app for $100 a year. You can have them manage and publish an app for you. Mm-hmm. And the app, actually I have my phone here, the app, you can brand it, and people can actually listen to your show mm-hmm. Right there on the app as well.
Oh, very cool.
So that's pretty nice.
Yeah, that is very, very cool. So you basically, let's in terms of setting back up there, what I heard from you is, and I actually looked at the pricing for the Blue Yeti microphone, which I highly recommend. I bought this thing a couple of years ago, and this thing it's I mean, it's you have
It's
to
a good
have
mic.
that. It's just really, really a good mic, and it's USB, which means that you plug it into your computer, and that's pretty much it. There is a button on the front, which is the mute right there, and then the volume. There's a couple of settings in the back. It's very, very easy microphone, $129. I put it on my computer. I record, which by the way, this microphone can record just me and someone or 3 or 4 people all around. So ultimately, you really all you need is one microphone. And so once I recorded that, I have a recording of the podcast, and you basically create an account with Spreaker, or use the free account and upload your recording to Spreaker, and that's pretty much that.
Well, what I do is I always recommend putting some bumper music as well. So you record it you can use Spreaker, or you can use like GarageBand, for example, on Mac, or Audacity for Windows. So record it into some kind of tool like that, which are typically free, and then get some music for the front end and the back end. You can get some free music sources out there. I forget the name of some. I got a whole list of free music sources. Just type, free podcast music, and you'll find a bunch. Wistia has some free music. I use that a lot. So if you go to wistia.com/music, I think that's where you'll find it. That's actually a really good source to grab some free tracks. And you can just download a track or two and try them out, and then put the music at the beginning, fade it out, fade it up at the end, and fade it back out, and you've got a nice intro and outro track, and it sounds very professional when you do that. And I use GarageBand on Mac for that. And for Windows, you can use, again, Audacity. There's plenty of other tools. Adobe Audition, I think, is one. There's plenty of inexpensive software apps you can use to kind of splice stuff together,
Right?
And that works pretty well.
And let's just talk for someone like, and I have some of that, and I'm sure you know some people that are a little bit what I will call technologically challenged, people that are not as at ease with that type of stuff. Because I know you and I would, do that actually for fun. But some people may find this completely overwhelming. And I'm not going to say that my wife is like that, but I could see her being like, oh my God, what are you asking me to do? And have me do it. So what are the alternatives? Basically find yourself a 22-year-old to help you out, and, buy them a pizza and movie tickets to help you out once a month to do this, or, what's involved in this?
Potentially. Yeah, there are people out there that do that. So, I have a virtual assistant company that does that. We have some people that do that. You can go on Fiverr sometimes and find somebody. You can just put on Facebook, hey, is anybody in my network adept at editing podcast episodes? If you know somebody, ask me, either of us can probably find you somebody. It's really not that time intensive. And actually, there are services out there, I think, that do editing for you as well. So. I'm just kind of look around.
Right.
It's actually not that difficult to do in-house either.
Right. And you said Fiverr, and I know that there's some services, but I've used Fiverr for some stuff. There's actually are people that will do that. So you basically give them the file, and you just say, just add some music at the beginning, add some music at the end, give me a little intro, and boom, there you have it. So you're going to be spending, what do you say, like $25 for that per episode, and it will be nice and clean?
Probably at most. Yeah, probably at most.
Yeah, the most $25. So basically, you bought yourself a $130 microphone. You got a plan at Spreaker to basically you have one for $19 a month or $5 a month. And you're saying there's a free one. I'm not seeing it, but I believe you.
There's a free one. If you just sign up for an account and then don't pick a plan, you can have free access up to a certain number of certain file limit, I think. So it usually lasts for at least a few episodes, if not longer.
Okay, very
cool.
And
the nice thing about Spreaker is they give you the feed. You can then just give the feed straight to iTunes and go to iTunes and publish your podcast. And then whenever you upload a new episode to Spreaker, it just pushes to iTunes automatically, and you're all set. You're actually on the iTunes store at that point.
Very, very cool. So, I think that we've given people in this webcast really a good sense of how to go about it. If you're thinking about, starting a podcast, is, number one is don't overthink it. Yes?
Well, actually, I'm not quite done with equipment. You mind if I tag on a little bit to equipment?
I thought you were done, so I'm sorry. Yes, please. Keep going. Keep going.
Wait, one more thing.
But wait, there is more.
Yeah, there's more. So that's covering in-house. But let's say you have a co-host or a guest like you and I are doing this remote.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you're the host of your podcast and you want to interview people all around the country.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, it gets actually even easier. You don't even need a mic because look at what you and I are doing. We're simply firing up a GoToMeeting and you're recording it.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you don't need video. You can just do it with audio. So I use Zoom for that. And Zoom actually has a free account up to 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually literally do it for free. You just put on your headphones like we're doing, keep the video off because you don't need it. It's audio only. And then fire up a Zoom meeting with your co-host or your interviewee and hit record and make sure your episode is less than 40 minutes, which is pretty reasonable. And then download the file and you've got your audio file and then splice the music on and you're good to go. So you can literally do a remote podcast recording for free using something like Zoom.
Absolutely.
I mean, GoToMeeting does it too, but I like Zoom better actually.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I've had a conference call with coaches or mentors and whatnot, and they do it on Zooms because we can record it and I can listen to it later because, remember he or she said something really important 3 months ago that I should be doing and I can't exactly recall, so I can go back to that recording. So Zoom is actually a great tool that you could use, but that's to interview someone that's remote. But you still use the microphone, right? Like I'm doing right now. You still use a good microphone, at least on your end.
You can. I actually run some other podcasts through some other kind of side little hobby things, and we actually just do this. We just use our earbuds, and it turns out pretty well. It turns out great.
Very cool. Okay, was that it?
I think that is it.
But wait, there is more.
No
headset, no fancy light. How about a disco ball? Do you need a disco ball to do a podcast?
Disco ball is mandatory.
It's mandatory.
You've got to have a disco ball. A very expensive, elaborate, large disco ball right above your head.
Yeah.
That really increases the sound quality.
It is required if you want to do it right. All right. So number one, don't overthink it. Just go for it. Get started. Just try it. Allow yourself to suck. It's okay. You can look at Michael's videos from the 1970s and mine from the 1960s. It wasn't pretty. Trust us. We weren't that good looking, from the start. Number two, choose your format. So, just know how you want to do it, whether you want to do an interview with Michael, like what Michael and I are doing, or whether you want to do two people in the office that are bouncing off, or if it's just going to be you. There's multiple types of format, and also what you're going to be talking about. You could be talking about the law, you could be talking about consumer law, you can be talking about health and fitness, you can be talking about anything you want but just be consistent at least, so when people come to your podcast, they know what to expect. And then the third thing is equipment and software. I mean, there's just really no, I don't know what is the proper word, like block to entry, or I don't know what the proper wording for that, but it's really cheap. Right, it's just really inexpensive to get in. A good microphone, like Michael was saying, he just had some with this, so you don't even need to spend any kind of money. I mean, obviously, if you want to give it a shot, invest a little bit. I mean, this microphone actually is really beautiful. Whether you're doing podcasts or not, it's really a great microphone to have. And with the software, Spreaker, Wistia Music, have someone at Fiverr that can help you out. You can basically be doing your first podcast next week, right? What do you think, Michael? I think they should be giving it a shot.
I would agree. Actually, you kind of alluded to a good thing, which is the schedule. When everyone starts doing a podcast, without fail, they want to start really slow and say, oh, well, let's do an episode once a month or once a quarter for a while until we get going, or every few weeks or something, because they just don't want to commit.
Right.
And I cannot stress enough, like, you've got to commit. Like, I've seen so many podcasts fizzle out because they just do it once a month or something. They just kind of say, well, we got busy, and then it just doesn't happen. And why'd you bother in the first place? People want to listen to podcasts in two ways. There's two schedules that work for a podcast: every day or every week, once a week. We divide up our lives into the segments of time called days and weeks. And if you go any longer and more infrequently than a week, you're not on the radar as much as the rest of their podcasts that they subscribe to. You've got to be at least once a week. Every day is way too much. I don't recommend once a day for any B2B company. I mean, if you're a national radio show, yeah, obviously you're once a day. But for any business, once a week is your target. Commit to it. You can do it. that is the best path to growing your podcast successfully.
Once a week. Yeah. For me, I didn't commit to once a week, although it's happening once a week. I committed to doing 100 episode. I kind of like say, you know what, I'm going to do 100 and I'm going to do it as not as fast as I can, but I'm just going to do them. Like my goal is to get 100 done and kind of like setting and seeing what I have and whatnot, because I know that I don't know what 100 episode is going to look like for me. But I know that it will be a great milestone. It'll give me an achievement. It'll give me something that I'll be able to look at. And I probably will say, okay, let's go for 1,000 now. But that's that. But I think it's a very good point. If you're going to go for it, just go for it. It's kind of like the gym. Like if you're going to sign up for the gym and you're going to say, okay, I'm just going to go, once a month and give it a try, it's not going to work, right? You got to go every week, at least twice a week in order to make it work. But podcasts, it's actually better than the gym because once a week is all you need. How long are your podcasts in terms of length? Is there, can you do 10 minutes? As some people says, 10, 15 minutes, 20, 30, an hour? What's the sweet spot?
Typically, shorter is better. If you're a national radio show and you export your show as a podcast, an hour is going to be fine because you've got all these segments and it's a big deal, whatever. But most podcasts, I would say 20 minutes is a really great target because that's about a commute. So it's a really nice way to fit into someone's life by being 15 or 20 minutes because that gives them time to digest the entire episode on their drive to work or during their workout at the gym or whatever their run they're going on. So keep it short enough if you can that it fits in that segment. Now, if you've got a reason to go longer, if your show is really good, has lots of segments, has a really great following, and you've really got a lot of reasons to kind of expand it, then yeah, that's fine. But I would not go long just to go long. Okay. I would try to keep it to about 20 minutes.
Okay. That's super cool. Now, let's do a little bit of selling, but it's just really soft sell. I'm not selling anything or anything, but for you, Michael, like what is a good fit? Let's just say someone is watching this show and saying, you know what, let me reach out to Michael because he seems like he's got it figured out, he's done it and whatnot. What is the types of client that you're looking for that are a good fit for you? So if you're this, please absolutely call me. So who's a good fit for you?
Sure, thank you. So we have a couple different divisions. Kind of our bigger main division would be the SpinWeb division, which is we do a lot of hospitals and healthcare, a lot of financial services. Banks and credit unions are huge for us. We do a lot of work with them, government and nonprofit. So those kinds of life services we're really good at. We have a lot of technology and security background, and we can really handle their needs. So that kind of stuff is really, really good for us. And the small business division, we've got a really nice product for small business. So if you're a general small business, like especially in Indianapolis or really anywhere in the country, if you're a small, like a law firm, a small business, a service company, we have some really great plans for those folks as well. Okay,
very cool. And you can help them. Like you were saying, you do help people set up with their podcasts and whatnot if they want to do it with their business. You can help them up, soup to nut, right?
Yeah. Like you, we do websites, we do digital marketing, and podcasting is a part of that.
Very, very cool. Well,
our podcast is at spinweb.net/radio. So if you want to subscribe to our podcast, again, it's spinweb.net/radio, and you can grab it there.
spinweb.net.spinradio. The link is right there, and you can.
Radio. Yeah, it redirected for you, but you can just go to /radio also.
Oh, /radio. Yes, /radio. So spinweb.net. .radio, and I'll put right here. I'll put the link right there so you can go and subscribe to Michael, and would be actually great for all of you to subscribe to listening to what he does, so that can give you some that can inspire you with some ideas. So Michael, thank you so much for spending the time with me and providing value for all the people trying to figure out podcasting and how it works and everything. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Go make a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So if you like this video and if you got value out of it, wherever you are, if you're on Facebook or subscribe, please click like or subscribe, or just click on it. Just do it right now. This is how we know we're doing a good job. And if you have comments or questions, same thing, just put it right below. If it's for Michael, just say question for Michael, and I will reach out to Michael, and I'll just make sure that he comes and answer it as quickly as he can. And the same thing for me. If you have a question for me, I will answer it as quick as I can. And on that note, thank you so much, Michael, and I look forward to seeing you sometime soon.
Thank you. Sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you.